Right, we've got the game more or less working. It's time to look at the user interface. Now, the user interface in this case is much like the user interface we created before with the Apple Catcher. So I've put in the score at the top and the time left, and I've also put in a play again button, and here they are in the canvas. Now, the things you might notice here is that I've used a different font, which I thought appropriate for the game. Now, you can download fonts for free from the internet. So I've got a font here. I've opened up a fonts folder and I've downloaded this Pipe Dream. Now, I'll set up the other text box just to show you how we apply those. Oh yes, you might notice if I zoom in here, I've put a border on the text box. So yeah, I'll show you how to do that by creating the game over text box. So again, I am on the canvas and then plus user interface text box, and I'll rename this TXT game over. Now, to put that in the position I want it to be, I've got this little rect transform here. Click on there, then hold in the Shift and the Alt. I'm going to select this one, which is in the center column, middle row. So that's the middle of the screen, basically. So I'll click there. And now I'm just going to move it up a bit, so it's above. Right. Okay, so this is game over. Right, so that the setting, I'm going to make this a lot bigger, so say 60. And then it disappears because we've got this limit on there, so I'll overflow that and overflow vertically as well. Right, it needs to be moved up a bit more now. And I'll center it. So now it's nicely centered. Right, so to use my font, it's very simple. Here's the font box. Here's the font I've downloaded and put into the fonts folder. I'm just going to drag that onto there. And there we have it. Now, the color. If you want to reuse a color, which is pretty useful, you can select this box here, and let's say right that one. And then down at the bottom here with the swatches, I can just click on this new color and they've added a preset. Okay. So in this case, I want this one to be the same color as the others. So I'm going to put this swatch that I chose before. Now, because it's yellow, it sort of fades into the background, and this is where I'm going to use the outline. So here's the text box inspector. I'm going to add a component and then go down to the user interface. And in there, we've got a user interface effects. Aren't very many here, but we've got the outline. And now you can see it's much clearer. If I want to, I can make it bigger by fiddling about with these, but that's okay. Right, so that's our user interface. Now it's time to get it working. So this is the updated game control script. It's very much like the game control script that we made for the Apple Catch. So just to go through it, I've added in the UI library here. Okay. I've added in the text boxes, this TXT score and TXT time. Notice that because they're the same sort, I can put them both on the same line. And then, as before, I've got the game over text and the button replay text as game objects. I've put a public integer with game time. Again, I've chosen 60 seconds and 20 points per duck. Right, and some private variables here, score and time left, and then the floats values of start time and use time just for the clocks. Right, looking at the start, this is the cursor, so I've set the score equal to 0. The time left is the game time, and then this populates the text boxes with the initial values. So score is 0, so say score 0, and time left, time left. I've hidden the TXT game over by setting active false and also the button replay, and I've initialized the start time. So in the update, exactly the same as the Apple catch. This first catch all here, so if it's game over, we're not going to update at all, and we're just finding the time that we've used. I call that use time, which is the current time minus the start time, and then the time left is the game time. Take away this, which converts the use time to the lowest integer below it, and then we've put the new value of time left in the box. Now, if the time left is 0, so if there's no time left, then we've got a few things to do. Set game over to true is the first thing, and then we need to show the game over text box and the button replay. This line here is not in Apple Catch. What this does is sets the cursor back from the reticule to the normal cursor. So it's exactly the same as the one above, except we're not using the texture 2D, the reticule, but we're using this special word null, which basically means nothing. So back to normal. Right, so this is just the same as before, and we've got these two public functions here. So we've got the public upscore, which is the same as in the Apple catch. So if the game's over, you don't get any more score, and then we just add the duck score to the score, and then we display it in the text box. And then the replay option, again, is a public, so we can get it from outside, just runs the start again. So we just go back to the beginning. Okay, so we need to attach this one to the button, and this one is a little more complicated. So let's just attach this one to the button. So I'm going back to Unity, and here's the button replay, and essentially we need to add the on-click event handler to here. So it's empty at the moment, so we'll just add in the time. So it's the game controller we've got in there, so I'll just pop that in the object box, and then from here we'll take the game control script, and then we've got the public function called replay. Right, let's just try that. So I've bring it down to 9 seconds. Okay, and it appears, and if I click on this, okay, it's back to the reticule. Notice that the score isn't working yet. That's the next job. One of the last things to do is when we shoot the duck, we need to get some score for it. Now, when we did the Apple catch, we attached an on-trigger event to the basket. Now, the basket was a static object. It's there all the way through the game. The trouble with the duck is that it's a dynamic object. It's spawned, it's produced in the game, so we can't actually point it to the game controller. So we have to find it for ourselves. So if we go to the script and we look at the move duck script, because this is the part where we find the trigger on mouse down over that trigger. So we've got to find here the upscore function, which is in the game control script. So I'm going to add some new stuff up here. Now, it's no good putting any public variables up here because it won't find them. So I'm going to get a game control object, which is the script. I'm going to call this controller. Okay. And we know that this game controller is part of the game control object. So in the start, we need to locate it. So we've got game object. I'm going to call this game control GC. Now, in the game object code, there's a function which is find, and I'm going to put the name game. You have to be very precise here. It's got to be exactly the same as in Unity. So if we just check on that. So yeah, it's game controller, no space, nothing like that, and a capital G and a capital C. That should be all right. Right, so that should find a game object called game controller. And we know that the game control script is a component of that game object. So I can find that now. So we've got the get component as we used before, and the component we're getting is a game control script. So this should find the script that we're looking for and put it in this variable called controller. So if we go down here now, on the on mouse down, I put in controller, we should find the upscore function because we made it public. That should do the job. Let's check it. No errors, no warnings. Stop debugging. And we'll go back and see if that works. So we should, if I'm lucky, I managed to hit a duck. Yeah, there it goes. So the score is going up. Right, good. Everything's working. We can just do the fancy things like in the game controller we can add the sound. So we've got an audio, I've got a theme for this. So we'll add an audio source. And I'll put the flappy theme in there. Take the volume down a bit. Okay. There's one other thing I'm going to do in the game controller, in the game control script. So I'll go back here. Is it if we wanted to play in a windowed environment, we need to actually specify that. So I'm just going to put in another line at the top of here. So we've got the screen. And we've got set resolution, and we're going to, they need the width and the height, so we decided this was 800 wide, 600 tall, and Boolean full screen, we don't want it full screen, so we'll put in false, and that'll make sure that it's played in an 800 by 600 window. I'll just save that. Okay, the last thing to do would be, of course, to build the game. So I need to add the open scenes, which I should have saved first. Let me save that. Okay. Build settings, add the open scene, which is main, and I'm going to build it for PC Max. Yeah. And we can look at the player settings. So I'm going to put in a windowed environment. Make it. This doesn't always work because you can change the screen size there. So we've taken out the resizable window. That's good. Now all I have to do is build it, and I'm going to put it in a new folder called Builds, and this is going to be a PC build, so put PC. So I'll select the PC folder and it should build. And there it is, DuckShoot.exe. It's actually DuckShoot 2 here for me, but there we go. And here's my game in its windowed environment. I didn't set the game time back to 60. It's a short game, short and sweet. Right, there we go.